Welcome to the Fit for Success podcast. Brian Semling is an experienced entrepreneur with over 25 years in business. He is the founder and CEO of Blitz Innovation. He has built several brands such as Brian's Toys, a collectible toy business, to several Amazon FBA brands like Strictly Bricks and Clever Creations. His latest adventure is Rovux, a modern athleisure footwear brand which can be found at rovuxfootwear.com. On the podcast, Brian will talk with other entrepreneurs and social media influencers about their entrepreneurial journey, from what it takes to start and run a business to how they may continue to grow their brands and where they see themselves in their businesses in the future. And now, here's your host, Brian Semling.
Welcome to the Fit for Success podcast. I'm Brian Semling. Today, our guest is Rebecca Rogers, with teacher turned influencer with over 2 million followers on TikTok. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
Rebecca, you have an incredible story to tell, and I'd love for you to just tell our audience who you are and about your journey from being a school teacher to becoming a social influencer with over 2 million followers, and just kind of the wonderful lemons to lemonade story that you have to share here. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. So I started teaching high school social studies in 2018, which wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it was a whole decade ago. COVID's really messed up my timelines. But yeah, I started teaching high school social studies. I specialized in freshman world history. That was my favorite thing to teach. And in the middle of my second year teaching is really when COVID hit really badly. Fun fact, I actually took kids to New York for a Model UN conference. And then 3 days after we got back is when New York shut down. So that was a lot of anxiety.
Early March then of 2020?
Yeah. And I remember thinking, I wonder if I'll have off for my birthday, which is March 18th. And sure enough, that one and the next one. And
Wow.
But anyways, during the beginning of my third year teaching, Fall 2020, my kids were really sad. My students, they were sad, they were depressed, they didn't really want to talk a lot. I personally had never had issues bonding with kids before. And then there not only was the crisis of COVID, but then the internal struggle of, I can't reach these kids, I'm doing something wrong. What can I do to engage them, to connect them? Like, they're so sad, they're so depressed. What are my options? I tried a lot of different things. And one day, one of the things that I tried to kind of reach them, I asked them, what do you guys think if I downloaded TikTok? Because that's the one thing they would talk about if they ever talked to each other. Did you see that video? Or did you see that drama? Or did you see that whatever? So I asked, what do you guys think about me downloading TikTok? And they just erupted in laughter and giggles. And they said that I would look so ridiculous. And they were there for it, though. I had 3 classes. My third and fourth period were the most enthusiastic. And it was my fourth period that actually came up with my handle, our Rogers World. They said, Miss Rogers, it's really your world and we're all just living in it. And I said, you guys get me, even online. So that is how our Rogers World was born. It started out with me just doing a couple little trends here and there that they thought were funny or cool, appropriate ones, of course. There was another teacher at our school that was also on TikTok. She was at 300K when I first started. She was so kind. So we did like little trends together. It was super fun. And one day I had a kid just say something really silly in our class. It was fourth period, and my fourth period class was like, oh, Ms. Rogers, you need to tell this story, this little joke on TikTok. And so I did. At the time, there were a lot of little series going on, like Real Things Said when I worked at a religious university, or Real Things Said at the salon where I worked. So I started Real Things Said in my classroom. The others seemed to do well. I thought, let's apply it. Let's try it. And it absolutely blew up. It was really popular. Then all of my kids wanted to say something funny that I would tell on TikTok. And so every week I decided Tuesdays were my skit days. And every week I would have kids either, oh, well, remember last week when I said that? Or last week I saw Susie say something in Miss Johnson's class. Like, they would just bring me the stories they wanted me to share. And it went on like that for a couple months. They kept blowing up until I started getting teachers sending me stories from all over the world. I think the farthest one I've gotten so far is from Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam,
Wow.
which is really cool. And it's been really interesting seeing all of the craziness in education all over the world. Like, it's not just here, which has been really cool. The demand for these stories has grown so much. I started doing 2 different funny story skits, one on Tuesdays, one over the weekends. I even incorporated kind of a more serious story series kind of thing for on Thursdays, talking about schools that have predators working at schools, or bomb threats, or shootings, or like really dangerous situations that the world doesn't always know happens in these schools, just to kind of raise awareness of not only the silliness of these kids, but also the craziness that these teachers and these schools deal with on a daily
Yeah.
basis, and even some of the danger that these kids face at schools. And it's just completely grown from there, blown up from there. I started, I think, Halloween weekend 2020. And today we have 2.2 million on TikTok. We have 900K on YouTube, 70K on Facebook, and then 63K on Instagram. I started a podcast with a couple friends over summer, and it was bought by an organization around January. And so we average about 20K downloads each week right now. 3 months in, like officially with the company, which is really cool. And it's just been a crazy ride.
Yeah. So how did so the kids responded and obviously helped share content, was just part of your classroom. It sounds like it really got them fired up and engaged in a way that they were like withdrawn, depressed, not engaged. So aside from the social info, just based what you were able to share with the world, how did it help them connect with class?
They were so excited to come to class. Like, they would come 5 minutes early. That has never happened in online learning before, at least at that time. They would come 5 minutes early just to talk about, Miss Rogers, did you see how many views this video has? Miss Rogers, did you see this person that commented on your video? Miss Rogers, I have another video idea for you. Like, it was really cool. And to this day, the kids who were the most active in like wanting to participate in it last fall, to this day, I still can't get rid of them. They still come to every single live event just to tell everyone that they're my favorite student, just to troll me. It's really funny. And so it really got them excited for something. That really was my goal, just to make them excited for something, to give them something positive to engage in. And I still can't get rid of them.
Did it make it easier to teach them social studies then? I would imagine, like, they're showing up and now they're like ready to listen to you, like,
yes. And that's something that I was just presenting at a teacher conference over the weekend, talking about how like teachers can use educational videos on TikTok in classrooms. And I'm like, it's different than you just telling them, because for some reason, and it infuriates me, for some reason, when someone has a lot of followers, it doesn't matter what they say, the kids will always think it's interesting just because they have followers, which is really annoying, but it's true. So you might as well use it in class,
Interesting. So you last fall, this 2021, you made a decision to leave teaching and focus on social media full time. So that's a pretty big change for anybody to leave a job to go into, in essence, your own business, and in this case, social influencing. And so talk us through that, because that's a big decision to go from, you were prepared to teach for, I think, the next 30 years, basically.
I mean, I love teaching more than anything. Like, I love my kids absolutely to death. They are my whole world. I really loved what I did, but at some point it just becomes really unsustainable. Something that a lot of teachers around the world right now, especially in our country, have been talking about is, before the pandemic, there was a list of expectations and responsibilities of teachers that was already becoming a little bit unbearable, that was already a lot for what teachers are paid, and during the pandemic, those responsibilities and those duties were kind of put on hold, and we were given an entire new set of duties and responsibilities. And now that everyone's going back to school, instead of picking and choosing from both lists, they all were kind of combined together, and it's become so unsustainable. There's now a whole corner of TikTok called Teacher Quit Talk, of just people like telling their stories about leaving the classroom. And even with all of the craziness going on, I was still prepared to stay, but there were a couple situations in my own backyard that just couldn't be ignored. One being that, teachers in my district, the year after I started, would not be able to receive retirement in 30 years. There would be no kind of retirement things. I was grandfathered in, but people after me, no.
No.
Now the rumor is that next year, teachers who start will not be able to receive state benefits. And so for me, being 4 years in at 25 years old, it was very hard for me to justify investing so many years into a career where in another 5 years, I don't know what it's going to look like. And I don't have the faith that my state government will take care of me, And so for me, if I'm able to grow something else that I can control, where I can out for myself, that's something that I needed to look into. Because I don't trust the state if they're going to be taking away retirement and benefits now, I have no idea what else they're going to be taking away in the next 5 years. And then also, as I said before, we had another TikTok teacher at my school. We had another one at our feeder middle school. It was a guy. He had 800K when I started. There's another one at another school down the road. She's at 70K. And weirdly enough, my principal tried to make all of these rules that applied to me, but not to the other TikTok teachers, even the ones, at our school. And it just became very blatant that I was just being targeted, unlike the other teachers in the county.
Yeah.
And it was just, there were a lot of scenarios where it just felt like he was, and I hate using this word, I hate throwing this accusation around, like it bothers me when people throw it around, but it really did just feel like he was blatantly being anti-Semitic and creating rules for me that didn't apply for anybody else. When another teacher at our school was taken to HR for TikTok for a student that felt like they were being targeted on her videos, and he supported her and told her, you can record anything you want. I'll support you as long as it's not during school hours. But then for me, it was, you're not allowed to monetize anything at all because you are a county employee and we technically own anything you make while you're under contract. And that didn't make sense because no one else in the county was getting that and no one else at our school was getting that. So it felt very targeted. And, it's not always talked about a lot, but there is a lot of anti-Semitism that goes on in the country. And it didn't feel like a safe place for me to be anymore. So I really had to make the decision to leave, and I would love to be able to go back one day to teaching just because I love it. Like I will always love it. It's always been a passion of mine. I genuinely love teaching history. But the education system needs to fix itself a little bit more before I'm able to.
So there was a negative side to this, but the other side of the coin was the tremendous opportunity that you had that was calling you basically. And now, so tell us a little about that transition. I mean, you kind of talked us through the decision point, but now you're focused on, social media. You're not teaching any longer, at least at the moment. So what has that been like roughly the last 6, 7, 8 months or so?
It's been really cool.
Rovox, where fashion meets fitness.
I've kind of developed the mentality of trust the universe because it's clearly looking out for me right now, and to take any opportunity that I can. I've made a lot of really awesome internet friends, and I've taken the opportunity to really just explore that. I had one friend who was walking in New York Fashion Week. I'm not teaching. I don't have that restriction. I'm going to go to Fashion Week. and watch my friend walk down the runway.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was competing in Miss America. I don't have school holding me back. I'm going to go to Miss America, the 100th anniversary, and watch that because why not? It's been really cool seeing these different opportunities that I otherwise, if I was teaching, I wouldn't have these kinds of vacation days. I wouldn't be able to do this. And the really sad truth, and this is very infuriating for me, it still makes me mad. The money that I make online just posting a video is like quadrupling my teaching salary. Like knowing how hard that I worked as a teacher. I
Right.
mean, I worked extremely hard. I was constantly doing something for my students or grading or planning or something. And now like most of my days is just like posting a video. I mean, it takes me 15 minutes to record like a skit that I just post on so many different platforms, and it makes me money on every single platform. And it's annoying. I have companies that will literally, oh, will you do a video sponsoring for us? And it's like 8 times more than my monthly teaching salary for a 1-minute video. And that's really infuriating, but at the same time, it's very conflicting, It's very strange.
Well, a couple thoughts, and I'm an entrepreneur. My parents were school teachers, as we talked about earlier, and at the same time, I'm definitely a capitalist, I guess you could say. So I think that I can understand, and this is very like recent for you too, right? Like you literally were a
Yes.
teacher like within the last year. And I guess that I think sympathize on the one hand. On the other hand, obviously be very thankful and
My
gratitude for this
demand.
opportunity that you have. And I think just trying to rationalize it a little bit from a dollars and cents standpoint is the reach that you have, right? You're
Yeah.
reaching over 2 million people on TikTok. When you combine all channels together, I think it's something like over 3 million. So, when you're in the classroom, you're pouring your heart and soul into, and I don't know the number, right, but 20, 30 kids, and then you've got X number of classes throughout the day, basically. But now you've got, let's say 3 million people, and you're not getting paid a whole lot by any one of those people. But if you're getting just a fraction of a cent, you know what I mean? A small fraction of a cent, but times 3 million, it turns out to be a very large number. So yeah, but you're not necessarily paid by what how much time you put in, or even necessarily how much effort you put in, but on the effect that you can have, basically the influence that you have.
Yeah. It's very strange. And again, it's conflicting because even though like part of me is like, this is great. I love this. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
But then another part of me is like mad about it, because I'm like, it shouldn't work this way, but it does. Like it's a very like internal struggle.
Right. So I can sympathize with that. So what does the future look like for you? I mean, I think that you're continuing to grow your channel, and you're in the space of teachers and teaching, and some of the serious, and some of the humor related aspect of that, which everybody needs. And then also the serious aspect of, issues that schools have and so forth. This is relatively new for you. I mean, you started about a year and a half ago as far as TikTok and so forth.
Yeah.
What does the future look like? What do you think things are where do you see yourself going over the next several years?
So again, there's so many different paths available, and that's really just kind of been the question right now is which ones do we prioritize first? So like obviously we have a 3-year contract signed for the podcast. I know that they want to tour the podcast, which is especially over summer, which is going to be really cool, and it'll be very interesting to see what kind of doors that opens up. I have been dabbling with the idea of children's chapter books kind of thing and starting my own series, The Adventures of Connor and Kyle, who are my 2 big characters in my skits are Connor, Kyle, and Jessica, but like it's mostly Connor and Kyle.
Okay.
That's who everyone loves. So I've been looking into that. I have an idea for the first book planned. I just actually have to have the time to like sit down and type it all out. I really kind of shifting my focus from TikTok to YouTube. I found that out of all the platforms, YouTube is the one that I feel most supported by the platform and the people working at the platform. And it's also, I feel the most supported, but also I'm the most compensated from that kind of platform. So I've definitely been focusing more on creating content specifically for YouTube. And that's just those are kind of the three things that I've been focusing on right now. I definitely, as we've been talking about video games earlier, have been thinking about starting a Twitch and doing something very different, not teacher related, just kind of doing video games and kind of looking for an audience there, just kind of growing any kind of audience and seeing what people like, what people don't like. Will I stay in teacher content forever? I will probably always do my teacher stories for sure. Teaching will always be in my heart and soul. I will always be a teacher on the inside, but I wouldn't mind looking into other kinds of content also, whether it be video games or lifestyle or traveling or things like that. And I guess those are the few things that we're just kind of focused on and
And you'll
seeing.
see where they go, basically.
Yeah,
Where they take
yeah.
you. It sounds like, you've got you talked us through kind of what the Tuesday, Thursday, weekend stuff looks like on your current channels and podcasts and so forth. And I guess anything you do new in addition to that doesn't really take away. It's just chances for you to try new things and potentially add to, basically, right? So it sounds exciting and fun. You've got a tremendous I think kind of a world of opportunity open to you. And so good luck. Well, congratulations with
Thank you.
what you've been able to do so far, and good luck into the future. And, whether it's the children's author type of books to, like you said, video gaming on Twitch, that's a very different, but you have the freedom to try some things, right? And then maybe it'll take off and you'll be like, oh, wow, I can't believe it. Or maybe it won't. And be like, well, I tried. There was no harm in trying, basically. So as an entrepreneur who has tried lots of things, who has succeeded at some and failed at probably more, you have to go out. You don't succeed unless you try, and you're not going to succeed, at least most of us, every time. But you keep trying, and obviously you're on a roll right now, and some things are working. Keep that going, and don't be afraid to fail from time to time. That's okay. That if you don't ever fail, then you don't know if you're trying, hard enough or trying enough. So good deal.
It's better to try something and get a no than to not try and wonder.
And not to regret, basically, right?
Right.
So is there anything that I haven't asked today that you wished I would have?
You know what a lot of my followers are really obsessed with? My cats. Not my husband. Well, they're also a little obsessed with my husband, but they're mostly obsessed with the cats. This will be a funny little story. So on the podcast, we have tried doing a mockumentary series, kind of like The Office. I love The Office.
I just watched 4 episodes on the plane yesterday.
That's so good. It's so good. But there was one episode where they wanted to fake if I had a sick cat. It was supposed to be an episode centered around our friend Lauren, who is one of the best teachers I've ever met. She's so phenomenal. She's still in the classroom. And Bree was gonna be it was gonna be completely satire, but amplifying all of our personalities. So Bree and Tal were gonna be partying too hard while Lauren was trying to get a meeting done, and I was gonna be sobbing over this sick cat. And I was like, guys, I can't do this because if people actually think my cat's sick, they're gonna lose their minds. There's no way that I could even pretend that I had a cat that died, because everyone would just lose it. And so we had to change it to a lemur or something.
That's funny. Before we wrap up here, you've talked about your different channels, but do you want to share any more details about how our audience can find you on the various platforms?
Yeah. So I'm R. Rogers World on anything that requires a handle, but anything else, I think it's just Rebecca Rogers or Miss Rogers. It's one of them. It might be a combination of both, I think.
And Rogers, ROGERS.
Yes.
Is that correct?
R. Rogers World. ROGERS WORLD. For a second, I was like, wait, did I spell that right?
Very good. Well, it's been very fun listening to your story and successes, and just how you were able to I love how we're able to, in essence, take the lemons and turn them into lemonade and really get the kids engaged and have it turn into a whole new exciting career for you, which is tremendous. So thank you very much
thank you for having me,
for joining us today. I'm Brian Semling, and this is the Fit for Success podcast.